Hello, my name is Brent Skinner, and I'm co-founder of 360 Insights, where I lead the HCM practice area. This is the story of how the use of isolved can help empower business owners to be the people leaders that they want to be because their HR is under control. 360 Insights spoke with Zubin Kapadia, owner and CEO of Right at Home North Shore, Long Island. For seniors needing various levels of assistance, the company provides home care services throughout Queens and parts of Nassau County, Long Island. With his acquisition of Right at Home in November of 2020, Zubin happened to inherit isolved already in place for the HR system. This spared him the tedium of unautomated operational HR, helping him to focus on his people. In home care and other industries related to healthcare, several challenges are at play. For one, tracking wildly varying employee hours from week to week to comply with FLSA or ACA. Another is training employees to help them comply with HIPAA and OSHA rules. A third is helping to ensure that scheduled staff are up to date with required licensures. In addition, New York state law requires a license for any physical touching involved in the job, say showering or dressing people, etc. And there are complexities to having different levels of licensed and unlicensed staff on hand, full-time and part-time employees. You get the point. The red tape in HR can get pretty long. On top of all this, caregiving is a very high turnover industry. It requires a certain passion and can include frustration and sadness when clients get sick or pass away. In the absence of a good HR solution in place, managing the employment of Right at Home's workforce would be just the type of nightmare that HR professionals might expect at such an organization. A sophisticated database is needed to track time and attendance when hours can change from 40 in 1 week to under 30 in the next. Aides work as W-2 employees at multiple agencies possibly, taking the hours they can to work when and where they want. There is complexity in determining whether such employees are indeed eligible for health insurance under ACA rules. Clear data is a necessity to help ensure compliance. So, why did Zubin keep isolved beyond all this? Well, isolved is the main portal for the payroll for Zubin's 115 employees. It also handles employee reports and company reports, plus E-Verify, I-9, eligibility verification, and of course ACA compliance. Beyond the system's ability and adeptness at handling these aspects of operational HR for a company in his industry, Zubin really likes isolved's customer support team. Sometimes there's just too much data and isolved's team is right there to help. Rather than having to call a general support line with different people answering his questions on any given day, Zubin has a customer support representative, Lisa Danzer, who knows his account well. Plus, when he's had very specific questions that Lisa could not answer, she has been able to connect him with someone else. For example, Linda Ziegler, who can. She's also on the isolved team. And there's more. In speaking with Zubin and learning about his day-to-day work, it became readily apparent right away his people matter to him. Here's just one example. Many employees of Right at Home are first-generation immigrants. They're not necessarily very tech-savvy. Zubin appreciates a payroll system that is easy to walk them through and which gives them a level of security and comfort that wouldn't be there with a complicated system. It's hard to know the culture, he says, so it's helpful to be able to quickly respond to their questions and concerns so they can derive as much joy and satisfaction from their work as possible. There are plenty of other examples of why Zubin is such a stellar people leader, but let's scope out for a moment. In the parlance of the HR profession, there is a term known as accidental HR people. Few, when they start a business, have it as their first thought to solve for HR. It's pretty far from what they're thinking about, to be honest. Instead, accidental HR people, such as the owner and other members of the founding leadership team, gradually take on the responsibilities of HR. Only when HR becomes truly unmanageable do these accidental HR people relent. This is when they start looking to solve for operational HR, and usually very quickly. Now, Zubin's is a great example of a really curious twist on this idea. The not so accidental HR person. Recall that isolved was already in place when he acquired Right at Home a few years ago. It was a turnkey solution, so to speak, right there for him to use. He could have very easily delegated all of HR, including the people leading part of it, to an HR person or HR department, but he didn't. Zubin likes working with the reports that isolved creates. He sees them as a help in leading his people. He's hands-on, and it just goes to show that people leaders will gravitate to HR when a good system is in place from a technology standpoint to help them with the operational aspects of it. With isolved, Zubin was spared the operational grind that HR would have been. This level of administrative tedium would have easily daunted even the most undaunted people leader. This gives him the mental space to think about his people first and focus on them, to be a business owner with a vested interest in human capital management. It's also a great example of what 360 Insights likes to call concrete and abstract HCM, balancing efficiency and empathy in carrying out HR. Focusing not only on being efficient with the concrete aspects of the management of the employment of people, making sure payroll is numerically correct, making sure that you're complying with all the related laws, but also on the abstract aspects of it, to show and live out empathy in leading people. Aspirational goals such as improving employee sentiment and creating an attractive employer culture. Zubin puts it best, quote, "Abstract part of it is the hardest part of running a business, period. Keeping people motivated, keeping people productive, keeping people engaged. You know, maximizing their productivity. It is the single most important thing I do every day," he says. I can't emphasize that enough. The proof is in the pudding, as the saying goes. Zubin has been approached by other providers. Some are local, some say they cost less. But isolved is fairly priced and cost-effective, he says. He prefers to have everything available to him in one place with one team to call on when he has questions. Of other vendors, he says, quote, "My concern would be, would you be able to produce what I need when I need it? And would you be able to help me right away when I need the help?" That's really the benefit, as I see it, with staying with an organization like isolved.